Hi everyone, good evening all. Can you hear me? So, yes or no, you can reply here. And I can see very few people, I think 17 or 18. So, need a response, right? तो फटाफट response करो, then we can start. Hello all. Alright. Yes or no, I don't know. I'm not able to see any messages. Do I need to connect again? Okay, audible. Great. So, alright. Now, if you have any problem or any question in your mind, please do ask. Rest, I can just check and start with right this page. I need to refresh it. Let me. All right, fine. So let me just check as my Kubernetes cluster is up and running. I'm just configuring this. Alright, so vector get nodes, everything is running. Okay, so today we are going to talk about three topics: namespaces, deployment, and config map. Okay, these are very important topics. In case if any of you want to appear for certified Kubernetes administrator or certified Kubernetes application developer exam, okay, then all these topics are very important. I mean, today whatever we are going to start. All right, now the scenario as of now in our Kubernetes infrastructure environment is we are having 3 minions followed by one master, and they all are connected to each other like this, and this is your Kubernetes cluster. The most important component in Kubernetes, that is Kube API server, and that is running on 6443 port number on top of HTTPS connection. Okay, and we are downloading this file in our client machine. So once we are downloading that file in the client machine, like this is my kubectl machine where I have kubectl installed, and by downloading that admin.conf file, okay, you know what, this name can be anything else in a different Kubernetes environment, but under your .kube folder you have to put it by the name of config. Okay, and to deploy our application we have used pod, we have used replication controller and replica set, and we access it by service. This is what we have done till yet. Okay, now we are going to discuss about few problems. The problem is, let's say if this is you and this is me. I mean, you guys are there and I'm here in Jaipur. Okay, and we are connecting with the single Kubernetes master by using same command line interface. Okay, when we are connecting with the same Kubernetes master, if you deploy a pod like this and I deploy a pod like this, so what we can do, because we are connecting to the same Kubernetes cluster, so let's say if I have deployed pod 1 and you have deployed pod 2. So we both can see and delete each other pod. That means the pod or replica set or services deployed by user 1 is also visible by user 2, because we both are using same admin.conf file, first reason, and we both are deploying in a single Kubernetes cluster. Okay, so now what we are going to learn, let's say if you are a Java application developer and you want to deploy your Kubernetes your application in a separate private space, so that whatever you do I cannot disturb that. Okay, so the reality is, if you want to deploy a pod with the name P1, I can also deploy a pod with the name P1, but here we have to introduce the concept of namespace. Now what is namespace? Let's say this is your K8s cluster that is running, and you have 3 teams. Team number 1, this is a Java developer, this is a Node.js developer, and this is a Python application developer. These are 3 developers, and they want to deploy their application in Kubernetes cluster, but they really don't want to share their application or pod or anything with each other. So there is no sharing is required here. Okay, so whatever this developer will deploy its own code in Kubernetes cluster, it must not be visible or accessible by other developers. So we can achieve this thing by implementing namespace in Kubernetes, right? So the namespace will do something like this. It will create a private space on top of running Kubernetes cluster, and then this developer can use this particular namespace to deploy every single data like a pod, replica set, service, and everything here. And if there is another developer like this, so this developer can also deploy their all API resources in their own namespace. Now there is no problem with the same name. If you are giving pod 1, it is allowed. Okay, so I hope namespace concept will be very much clear. By default, when we install Kubernetes cluster, we always deploy our pods and application in a default namespace. Okay, so for example, I can show you, if I'm deleting everything as of now from here, right, and once I delete this, I can show you that by default whatever we are doing, we are just doing under a default namespace. Fine, so that's why we all are having different pod name and many more things like that, right? So namespaces is very important in normal Kubernetes engineering, or maybe in case you want to go for a production level discussion or job. Fine, see, if I do something kubectl get nodes or get pods, I can have the message after some time that nothing found, or I can just check deployment or replication controller. See, no resource found in the default namespace. Okay, so first of all, reply here in the chat window, are you understanding namespace, the use of namespace to give a private space to every user of Kubernetes, so that they can deploy, they can manage, they can maintain their application in a same Kubernetes cluster in a separate way. Okay, so it's very much similar to Docker namespace. So I can see few messages. All right, fine. Now, yes, exactly, like I have configured in the examination as well for everyone. right? So see, now if you talk about how many namespaces are there by default, yes, it's a kind of pure isolation, pure. Okay, now by default there are 4 namespaces present in Kubernetes. The first one is default, right? And that is the one where every time you connect with Kubernetes cluster, this namespace will be default. It doesn't matter you are using Minikube or you're using Kubernetes cloud or anything, it will be default. And so all your applications will be deployed here. The second and most important namespace is kube system. Okay, now let me tell you, kube system is the most important namespace because whatever component of Kubernetes you have learned, let's say kube API server, okay, etcd or controller or flannel and kube proxy, many more, whatever components we have discussed in the Kubernetes concept, all components are running in the form of pod under kube-system namespace. So any new service, any new implementation you want to have, then in that case you can check all those under kube system namespace. The third one is a kube public. Okay, if there is something I want to share data with every namespace, so this is like a template. So any template or anything you want to just put it, kube public namespace is there, and the final is kube node lease. Okay, this is for backup and maintenance and monitoring for minions. Let's say you want to deploy a security service for all the minions, so any node kind of application that is going to take care or going to take backup of your nodes, that will be there. So I can show you how we can check the namespace list by kubectl get namespaces, right? And yes, you can see here, just forget about the first and the third because that is something that I have deployed 1 and 3, but 1, 2, 3, 4, these are the default namespaces that will always come when you install Kubernetes by any way, right? So default, node lease, public, system. Okay, node lease and kube public you will be not using for a longer time, but in general you'll be using default or your own name space. Fine. So let me tell you, if I'm doing like kubectl get ns, also short form of namespace, and if I'm doing kubectl get pod, okay, kubectl get pod, then by default it will show me the default namespace pods, but I can put -n and the name of namespace. I can see the pod is running. Okay, or I can just try kube-system. See, in the kube-system, all the pods are running. See, Calico, Core DNS, etcd, API server, controller manager, kube proxy, kube scheduler, and matrix server, and many more. Right? Depends on a couple of factors, but in the kube system namespace, all the components are running as a pod. Okay, so I got a question, kube node lease namespace. Okay, fine. So let me tell you, what is kube node lease namespace? Let's say you have minion nodes, you want to deploy something for these minions. Let's say any monitoring tool, any security, or any anything related to nodes that you're going to use. So for that purpose, kube node lease namespace got created. It's a purpose, it's not a rule. That's it. Okay, so how you can check the data of a different namespace? By supplying -n. Now how you are going to create your own namespace. So it's very simple. You can just use kubectl create namespace. Let's say I'm creating Adhoc NW, and that's it. It's very simple. And you can check here, get ns. This namespace got created 6 seconds ago, right? So I don't think so there will be any problem, because this namespace got created. Now let's say if you are going to write any pod file, run pod1 -- image nginx and -- port 80. See, if you're going to do here without anything, this will be created in default namespace, right? And in the same namespace you cannot create the same pod, because if the pod is existing you cannot create same pod here, but the same pod can be created in a different namespace by -n, and let's say Adhoc NW. See, and the same pod can also be created in a Ashutoshh namespace. So that means if you change the namespace name, likewise you can use that. Maybe if you don't want to use -n, you can always use dry run -oyml. Let's say I'm going to use temp ns.yml. So how you can write about namespace information? It just under metadata section you have a namespace keyword, and here you can write the namespace name. Okay, so namespace in YML file. Okay, so it's very easy. I've showed you all the method. The same pod can be created in a different namespace, and they will get a different IP address as well. See, in the default namespace I'm getting IP this, and the same pod in Adhoc NW namespace, this is having something else IP and in different node, but the pod name is same. And in the Ashutoshh namespace, this pod is getting something else in a different minion node. Okay, so that means in short, you all are allowed to have use same name in a different namespaces. Okay, so I hope this must be very much easy to understand, that the best practice in Kubernetes, the best way to do or deploy application, first of all you always have to create a namespace, and then here you can deploy your pod, you can deploy your replication controller, replica set and service, and many more things, whatever you have learned till yet. Okay, everything must be under some namespace. By default it's default, or you can create your own. Fine. So every single kind of application will be running under some namespace, so it's just a recommended way. So that's why I just created a namespace, and whatever you want to deploy there, either use -n. Okay, and see, like this. So we have deployed here. If you don't want to write this, right, so you can also use kubectl create -f this, and here also you can type, let's say I'm going to deploy under kube public. Fine. If you try to override it, it will not, so it must match the internal data. So let's say Ashutoshh, right? So it is going to deploy that already there, so I can just use replace and -force. It is going to delete and recreate. Fine. So if you have written in the file, you don't need to supply -n, otherwise you can supply same, right? So if till now this is a very simple and easy concept, everything you are understanding, just say yes in the chat window that yes, you are understanding the concept of namespaces, right? So all right, Chinmay, Harsh and few more people. Okay, great. Now the next thing is, there are some Kubernetes API resources, some Kubernetes API resources that are not bounded with the namespace. Like there are a couple of API resources that is not bounded with the namespace, like nodes. So you cannot bound any of the minion or master node with a particular namespace, because see, these nodes will have a container or the pod deployed by any user. So you cannot bound your nodes in any namespace, or namespace itself, right? Namespace itself is not a part of any namespace. So that means few resources and few things are there in Kubernetes that is not bounded with the namespace, like pod, this and this we have bounded. Okay, so this nodes and namespaces and many more things that you will see in future that are there, that is not bounded with the namespace, and that detail you can cross check by using kubectl API resources. So this command will tell you which one is dependent on the namespace and which one is not. So if I just start from the beginning, right? So this command has a very good output. The name, short name, API group, namespaced or kind. See, if we talk about bindings, so binding is something in Kubernetes that is dependent on the namespace, but if you check about the component status, it is not, false. And if you come here about namespaces, see, namespaces are not dependent on any namespace. Or you check out nodes, so this nodes also short form is namespaces, false. Okay, but if you go there in the bottom and check for pod is true, yes. That means to deploy a pod you need a namespace, right? Okay, and likewise service here. So you can also check services, and or you can also use filter to just use true or false of the value, but anyway this is kind of things that you can use. Okay, I hope you are understanding it from here, that yes, you can get a list of namespaces and API resources from there. Okay, so this is something that is namespace. Let's say if you want to delete the namespace, so first of all what you have to do is you have to delete all the data under that namespace. Once you delete all the data from that namespace, then you can delete the namespace. So the recommended way is to delete the data first of a namespace that is running over there, and once the data got deleted, you can delete namespaces by writing like this. So kubectl delete namespaces and the name of namespaces. Now I am not having any of the namespace, by the name of Adhoc NW, right? So this is a very small topic but very useful. So we have done with the namespaces at your level. There's a tag at your level. Okay, by keeping thing in mind, yes, that you need to understand that much on namespaces only. Okay, so I think it's very much easy to understand. So I need a final done message in the chat window that yes, you guys are understanding creating namespace, using namespaces, and deleting namespaces. Fine. No, Chinmay. That script you can create, but it's nothing like that. Alright. So I can see two messages from Harsh and Sonu that yes, you are very much okay with the namespaces keyword. Different, Piyush. Services are different. See, you can check here. So in this example, if you grep for service, services are different for each namespace. Service is namespace dependent, right? So I hope you are getting it. So every namespace have its own service for their own application. So same kind of application you need to deploy under your own namespace. Alright. Anyway, now we are going to talk about what is the best way to deploy application in Kubernetes. Okay, so what we did, Mukesh is asking for namespace for user not to conflict. Not exactly. I mean, yes, it's for kind of teams. Let's say you have a different project teams where you don't want to share the pods or the container or service name or anything with another developer or another user. So that is a kind of user management in namespaces. Conflict is not a problem. The thing is privacy. Okay, so it's not a conflict, it's a privacy. So best way to deploy application in Kubernetes. See, we started with pod and we then moved to replication controller and then we moved to replica set. Okay, so I think if you have gone through with the difference between replication controller and replica set, that's pretty much fine. But if you have not googled it, what is the technical difference between replication controller or replica set? Okay, anyway, that you have to figure out, else you can connect me anytime. The reality is, we have not used replica set, replication controller anymore, and we use replica set. Okay, but you know what, we are in 2020, fighting with corona, so now replica set is also not being used. Okay, and what is the reason replica set is not being used? For example, let's say you deployed an application called application 1 and you have given 3 replicas. So what just happened, 3 pods got created and you created a service. Okay, and that service was pointing to all these pods and everything is running fine. I got one more question. Yes, Tej, we can do that. It's not about namespace communication, it's about the data or the pods running inside the namespace. Okay, so now you deploy service. Now people are accessing application, and that is really fine. Okay, now what happened one day, this application was having version 1. Okay, now after 3 months, the developer is now updating its application from version 1 to version 2. So definitely you have to design a new Docker image. Let's call it application version 2. When there is a new Docker image, if you update this image, if you upgrade this application, what Replicas it will do, it will destroy all the containers or pod running in previous version, and it will create new pods from a new Docker image or from new version. Now because the label is also same, we are not going to change the label, so this service will start pointing to that. But when you destroy all the pod in one shot and you create new pods, so between this journey there is a downtime in website or in your application. So whosoever were connected on the real time, and the replica set destroyed all these pods and created new pod from the new application version, then there is a chance of downtime. So downtime means your website may go down, and in fact it will go down, because you know what, if you delete all the pods in one shot and you recreate it, so that creation of pod is also taking few milliseconds and second time. Alright, so this is the base reason why we are not using replica set in the real production environment. So in case of application upgradation, replica set is not recommended. Okay, so are you understanding the problem in replica set? Just say yes or no in the chat window, that yes, you are understanding the problem in replica set, and that is during the upgradation of your application. Please everybody, because you know what, you're just saying yes, all people are saying yes, but whenever there is an exam, there is an interview, maximum people are not understanding what they need to say. So Harsh and Radham, they all are okay. Ketan is also fine. Okay, and definitely in the world of containerization and Kubernetes, we really don't want any kind of downtime in our application. Okay, so that means we don't want downtime in the application. So finally we are going to introduce a new API resource in Kubernetes, that is deployment. Okay, so you know what, we started journey from pod, we moved to replication controller, then replica set, and now finally deployment. Okay, now what is the feature and how it is different from replica set? See, if you have version 1 of your application and the 3 pods are running, let's say version 1 of the application, now what you did in the deployment as a Kubernetes engineer, you want to upgrade your application from version 1 to version 2. Okay, and new Docker image you have introduced. So what deployment will do, it will update application in a similar very amazing updating strategy. So what it will do, it will select one pod out of all 3, and it will stop taking new connection. So that means only for this pod it will not take any new connection, but it will serve the existing customers. So whosoever are connected with this pod, all the current connection will be served. Okay, once the current connection is 0, it will destroy this pod and it will create a new pod from new Docker image. See, so still there is a count maintained of 3, 2 from old, this from new. Now again this will select another pod from the old version. It will do the same, stop taking new connection, but will serve the existing one. Once the existing connection goes off, it will destroy this, and on behalf of this it will create this, and likewise it will destroy this and it will create it. So it's like one by one, not accidentally. So this strategy, we call it rolling updates. Okay, this strategy of deployment, we are calling it strategy of upgrade, that is rolling updates. Okay, and also deployment can remember version number. So in case you want to go back to previous version, so this we also call rollbacks. So your deployment has 2 extra features, very brand new: rolling updates and rollbacks. Rollbacks is just to, if you are in version 7 of your application, now you want to go to version 5, it's like a git versioning. So deployment can switch to the previous version, and where also rolling updates will be coming. And rolling updates means one by one upgrade, right? So deployment is generally popular for zero downtime because it has very amazing strategy of rolling updates. Okay, so first of all, give yes or okay or cool message in the chat window if you understand deployment on top of replica set and both the features rolling updates and rollbacks, so that I can just show you in a practical way. But first, share your opinion about deployments, right? It's very much cool, wonderful. So just give a very honest response here, that yes, you are understanding this rolling update and both the features. All right, wonderful. Now it's time for deploying that application. So let's say what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a sample page for you. Let's say dep right, and here I'm gonna create a deployment. So kubectl create deployment, and but let me first create a Docker image, Docker file, and what I'll do is, like, I think I already have application. Fine. So what I'll do is my Docker image is there in GitHub. Okay, it's summer 2020, and I think I have this Docker file where, okay, it's not the one that I'm looking for. Anybody can tell me, that where we have Docker image. Otherwise, I need to just create that Docker file. See, so what I'm doing is Docker file, first v1.html, and it's like h1 hello, this is v1 app, Fine. So h1 is closed. Now Docker file from nginx, copy v1.html to sr share nginx html by the name of index.html html. Okay, and I'm just copying v1 to v2.html just to show you this is version 2 of the application. I'm using docker file v2, sorry, docker file v2 just to give that. Right, now what I'm going to do, docker build -tag now summer 2020 vv11 dot. Fine. So I have upgraded two different images, so that just version 1 image be created, and likewise version 2 too, but here the file name is docker file v2. Fine. So now we have two images, v11 and v2. What I need to do, I'm just doing docker login so that I can push it on my Docker Hub account. So I believe it got successfully logged in. No. Yes. So I believe this time is logged in. So what I'll do is I'll push this image v1 first. Fine. I'm pushing this image. Once this image will be pushed, I'll push version 2 as well. So I've just showed you that example. I hope none of you are having any problem. Oh, is it? It was nothing. Right? Anyway, so log out. See. Now what I'm going to do is I'm gonna create, I hope this is not a problem for anyone, right? So I'm gonna create deployment, let's say Ashutoshh deployment 1 -- image, and it will be my first version. Let's say I'm gonna use the first version of my image, v11 colon v11 -- dry run -oyaml. Fine. dep.yml, and I just want to show you how exactly, see, the kind is deployment, rest everything is same. It has replica set, selector, match, everything is same. I mean very much similar to replica set, nothing change except the type is deployment. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just introduce one more thing. Let's say I'm gonna deploy it under my own namespace, right? So what I'll do, create -f dep1.yml, and now get deployments in my namespace. See, it is up and ready and available. Even deployment create pod, and the pod is running. Okay, so, and if I want to create service, what I'll do, I'll use expose deployment Ashutoshh1 -- type node port -- port 80, and then under my namespace, make sure the service is also in the same namespace. So if I'll check pods and service, now Ashutoshh Dep1 service is running on 30241 page, 41 port number. So I don't think so there's any problem with the deployment 30241. So if I'll check in the Kubernetes master IP or minion IP, so it's a 30241. See, this is version 1 of the application. Okay, now when you have version 1, let me do one thing. How many deployments having only one pod? Fine. So if I want to scale number of pod from 1 to 3, so what I can do, the same way we did in replica set, vector scale deployment and deployment name -- replica, let's say 3, in Ashutoshh namespace. So what happened now, my pod got 3 containers likewise. Fine. So these are 3 pods, and still if I'm doing like refresh, yes, the same v1 application is running. You can have a look, make sure I'm not doing fast, right? Because sometimes I think like, oh my god, I'm doing it fast. Okay, so deployment got created. I just change a namespace over there, then I expose the deployment name and the port and everything, then I cross check the same, and that is what I'm getting v1 output, v1. Fine. So just let me know right now, all these steps whatever we have done till now must be very much fine for everyone. Okay, how we created deployment, and how we change the namespace, and how we scale that application. Fine. So give your response here in the chat window with yes or no. Okay. So for Harsh, Chinmay and Rhythm, it is very much okay as of now. Fine. Alright. Now, time for upgradation of application. So let's say my application is version 1. Now I want to upgrade my application, or I want to update my application from version 1 to version 2. Okay, and what I can do, first of all, before upgrading, I can show you one thing. If you deployed your application by deployment, what just happened? So deployment noted down this version 1 under a keyword, we call it revision number, revision version 1. That means yes, this is the very fresh Docker image that you are running as an application. So deployment is maintaining the version history like by the name of revision number. Okay, as of now we have deployed only one application from the same Docker image. So that must be revision number 1. Okay, that I can show you. Kubectl describe deployment Ashutoshh dep1 under my namespace. So if I'll just use describe command and go up, see, first of all the namespace is this, label is this, and what about the revision number? Revision number 1 means yes, as of now this is first version of the application. And what is the strategy type? It's rolling updates. Okay, now what is my Docker image? v1. What is my container name? Summer 2020. See, now what if I want to upgrade my application? So what I need to do, I need to replace this Docker image from there. So the best way is to either you can edit this file and just type here version 2, the next image that you have implemented. Okay, once you do that, if you use kubectl apply -f, this one, what is going to happen? See what happened. Rolling updates got triggered in the backend. Okay, rolling updates got triggered in the backend because I have changed my image from version 1 to version 2. Right? That for pod you can check Chenmai, not for deployment, because deployment is also creating pods. Okay, and if I do describe again few things, see what just happened. We started from 0 to 1 and then like this, and here if you see revision number is 2 now. What about the image also? It's version 2. And if I refresh my web application here, it is version 2. Okay, although you can also check kubectl rollout deployment rollout history of deployment Ashutoshh dep1 under my namespace. We'll see the revision number history. So version 1 and version 2. So that means yes, in the version 1 there will be some previous application in version 2, and that is the newest one, the one that I have upgraded. So it's my revision number 2 and 1, and which one is mine, that is the current, that I can figure out from there. I am in the revision number 2. Okay, so if I want to just go back one step, that I want to just, now I'm here. What if I want to downgrade that application, because maybe this application is not very much responsive, so I just want to roll back to version 1 so that people can access at least. What I'll do is I'll use kubectl rollout undo deployment name under the namespace of my own. Once I do that, see, if I show you the status of the role, it is saying rolled out successfully. And you know what just happened? Earlier it was revision number 1 and 2. Now what happened? Because I'm coming here thrice, so it becomes 3, and this is same. Because once you go back to previous version, it will upgrade the number. So now if I'll show you the history of deployment, 1 becomes 3, 2 becomes 2. Okay, and if I'll refresh my application, it's version 1 now, and if I do the describe, I can show you I'm on version 3, and this is my Docker image. So likewise, if you do undo command, it will just go one step back. Okay, okay, and now Chinmay and Rhythm, they are saying something. I'm not getting your point, Chinmay. And for Rhythm, it was very simple. See, first of all, your application was hitting to any one of the node, right? Any one of the node. So there is nothing like any load balancer that can check for another node. What if the pod is running in a worker node 2 and the one that gone was on worker node 1? So that you have to create a load balancer that can take care of traffic redirection. Okay, so Rhythm, for you the answer is, as of now you are hitting on a single IP. In real world, we always use a load balancer, right? So that even if one pod goes down from one worker node, load balancer keep sending the traffic to different nodes. So right now your connection, that's why maybe it got delayed. Okay, and Chinmay, come up your question again. With your question again. Change cause, it's like not about change. I'm not getting your point. You can retype. Maybe you can connect me over WhatsApp, right? But anyway, are you guys are understanding this thing? Right? This thing. So say yes in the chat window if you are understanding this deployment, how we scale it, how we check the revision number, how we check the rolling update history, and the rollout command, status, and many more. Right? So take your time, then say yes, not before that. The chat window. Commit the message in the deployment. Committing message is not the one. You can use annotations. You know what? Annotations are there in the here. So use annotations here. When you use annotations, you can comment here. This application about something like that. Yes, that we can give. That we can give. Change cause we can give. Otherwise, Kubernetes is also having its own reasons. I got your point. Change cause, right? So you can tag it. That's not a problem. So this is for us. If we want to, leave a message for someone, right? Anyway, and guys, if you're not understanding it or not getting my point, please do ask your question, because I can see very few messages for this deployment. Deployment was very easy. Roll out, and see this command you don't have to worry about. There's a tab working behind the scene. Yes, Tej. got the right keyword. Okay, now but what if your application will have version 3 or application will have version 4 as well? So once you do a kind of undo, it will just go one step back or the previous version. Let's say if you have revision number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 likewise. So how you go to a specific revision number? Okay, so for this, how you do that, let's say as of now you have this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's a number of revision numbers. So what you do, kubectl rollout undo deployment name in the namespace, and there is keyword -2 revision is equals to, let's say you have 4 numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 something. Okay, so you can write that revision number here if you want to go back to any specific version. So that means if you are here in version 4, you want to go back to the version 1. So by using -2 revision you can use that. Okay, although for me it's not revision number 1, I can just switch to 2 or 3. Okay, so just to go to any particular revision number for rollback, this is the right option. Okay, so is it also very much understood for everyone? All right, fine. So this is something your deployment. Yes, so everything, you know what, you don't have to worry about the steps. If you go to Google under my K8s repository on GitHub, this is a very amazing blog. What you can do is, under the master branch, you can go there and there are so many topics. Let's say you want to go for a deployment. So I'm clicking on deployments, my page got changed, and if you come down from here, deployments is getting started. You go there, how we create, and this file is already uploaded in this GitHub under this deployment branch. And if I go there, I can check, yes, we created that, we checked, and we described that to check the revision number, and we create a deployment using command line. Then we have this something like this. Then we are updating image. There is a command, or you can use by like that also, and checking rolling updates, history, roll back, and roll back to a particular revision number. Okay, so likewise you can manage, and the steps are written here in a better way. Likewise, you want to understand about services, you can just click on namespace or service, any topic, let's say under services. So if you go there in the bottom, and from here service got started. See, in generally 3 major type of services are there, this and this. And then I'll let you know Harsh, blue-green deployment and canary deployment also. Okay, right, so this is some explanation about service. So I mean, this blog has a lot of branches, you can explore from there. Okay, so this was something about your deployment. Rest you can, you know, learn more about deployment from Google. I mean, it's all very much fine, right? So the next session will be, you know, about couple of new things. So in the next session, what we are going to plan, we are going to use, you know, Docker engine, a Jenkins server, and your GitHub account. So we test our image here, then we upload on GitHub Docker file. Jenkins will take that GitHub repo and will build the image and will also push it on Docker Hub. Then there will be a new job, we call it deployment. Now this Jenkins will be connecting to Kubernetes API server, and the same image you pushed over there, it will be just, you know, deploying that. And in the next section it will create service, and then this will be a kind of pipeline. So where will be keep adding the code in the web server, Jenkins will build it. Once you push, it will upload, then Kubernetes will deploy that. So this part we have already done, but we need to integrate our Kubernetes Jenkins with this build and service create, right? So that will be also a big section in the project to understand in that much way. Fine. So this is your story of deployment. Okay, you can read more about deployment if you want. I think after a good level you can just type deployment in Kubernetes, and this is official documentation of deployment, right? You can check here. Okay. Yes, Chinmay, there is no need of Ansible as of now. Ansible is something different, you know. When you have so many Kubernetes cluster, you want to deploy the same application. So when there is a need of automation, because we have, if you want to deploy Kubernetes cluster, right, then Ansible is required. Ansible is not for a deployment tool generally, it's a automation tool. So this documentation you can also head over for the practice. Okay, so is it all set for deployment? Right? So say yes or no in the chat window if you are very much agree with deployments. All right. Great. So anyway, tomorrow is Sunday, and tomorrow is interview also. So I'll be selecting around 15 people for interview on Skype, on maybe Zoom, and the interview will be about your Docker and whatever we have learned in Kubernetes till now. Okay, it will include every single thing. So the list of 15 people Harsh, I never said that replication controller is deprecated. Replication controller is not good with the application upgradation and rolling backs. So replication controller is there. So there is a different purpose. Replication. That's what the difference you have to understand. What was the problem with the replica, or what new feature got added in the replica set? It's not deprecated. So there is some difference. Right? Fine. So I'll be sending a list of 15 people in the WhatsApp group. Then you guys have to prepare Docker and Kubernetes part for tomorrow, right? Rest people can practice more on Dockers. Then we'll connect on Monday, right? So tomorrow is no session. Tomorrow is only interview for 15 people. That list I'll send it to you. And rest, please work on your projects. So I have given project to 3 teams. I need really fast update on projects. So keep working on Kubernetes projects and get ready for the interview. Right? No, this is not for the people who have already appeared. I'll send a list of the new people. Okay, not the previous one. Interview will be in the, I believe, morning, not in the evening time. So morning, maybe around 10 a.m. will be fine. I guess 10 a.m. will be fine. It's not a problem. Okay, that depends. If any change in plan is, happening, then I'll let you know in the group itself. Okay. Alright guys, thank you so much. Enjoy your Saturday night and have some booze. I don't know when you have or not. So, and have fun. And now I'm stopping this recording.